All right. Who's here tonight? Surely you guys are out there somewhere. Hey, Diana. How's the Blanton family? Aaron. Gayla. Hello, hello. Wade. Sue. Tracy, Janet, Patricia. Hey guys, this is Jim with Crawfordology, where we talk about the things that you care about most of the time. Most of the time, we talk about the things you care about. We're going to talk about that tonight. But let me start here. We're going to talk about making sure you've signed up and checked in with us. If you haven't been here before, make sure that you like and follow us. It is always a challenge, as you've probably been following in the news and everywhere, that they talk about things that matter, which is very few places these days. That's why it's smart to come here. Conservative voices are always being silenced or pushed aside, and we have had it happen here in real time. So anyway, just jumping right in today, I'm going to go through some things fairly quickly because I think there's some so much happening. And hey, I'm so happy that you guys are all joining in here. It's taking a minute. I got Nettie from New York, Jeff from Iowa, Vicky from Washington State. Man, I mean from everywhere. Michigan. You guys are Kentucky, my home state. All right, so really thanks for coming in. If you haven't been here, make sure that you visit us over on American One. And of course, on the American One site, you can watch the podcast. You can read the articles. Articles go up here all day long. So we want you to come in, click and read, stay in tune with what's happening. We'll give you our take on the world. We'll tell you what we think America looks like. And of course, there are all sorts of other connections in here, other great articles from our signature series articles and Dr. Rick Cromie and Elizabeth Morgan. So make sure you stop by and check those out. We do have some swag. I know I keep promising we're going to get it up. We got like these American One beanies and hats. And really and truly, the one thing I feel selfish about is I have this mug. And it's a hot cold mug. And it's Cerakoted. So this is what the good folks at ThreatWorks do. And we have a bunch of them. I haven't sold one. I haven't even set them out to sell. So you'll see where my head is, folks. It's not about how much money we can get off you. It's how much can we engage with our audience. We want to do some nice stuff, and we want to get that stuff to you. We want to make it available. So we'll do that soon. I got to say, when it comes to thinking about the difference in presidents since President Trump has left office and Joe Biden has gone into the office. Well, just watch.
Feels differently about this than the president does. Administration officials said that this decision, which was a day one decision, had essentially used the Obama administration's assessment as the reason to go back, I believe is what they said. There was no other reason to explore it. There is an economic effect, though, of course, now. About 11,000 people had jobs connected to this in the United States, at least. What does the White House say to those people, to the Canadian workers who now are going to be out of a job if this pipeline is indeed shut down?
Well, let me first say that it was the Obama-Biden administration when the assessment was done and done by the State Department at the time. And the president was very consistent through the campaign and even before then about his view that it should be revoked. And he had conversations, of course, with the prime minister about it. The prime minister raised his concerns directly with the president, has previously, and he's, of course, welcome to today. But the president made clear that this is a commitment he has made in the past, that it's not in the interest of the United States, and that we want to try to address our climate crisis while also creating good paying union jobs. And he has a plan. He has talked about his plan, I should say, on the campaign trail to create millions of clean energy jobs. And he is eager to continue to work with the policy team and outside stakeholders and experts on delivering on that in the months ahead. But he believes you can do both.
I think this is like Biden saying, so you don't have a job, right, Canadians? You guys stick up north of the border. I don't know what voice that came from, but it's probably not so Canadian. You know, this woman is sort of like the Ice Queen. She is not only is she she may be the Circleback Queen, the sister of the Ice Queen from like the Chronicles of Narnia. There is something really wrong with this laissez-faire attitude that they now have with our partners to the north. Remember, all they talked about during the campaign from the Democrats, not from Biden, because we didn't really hear much from him, but all we heard these people talking about was how we needed to be a better partner with our neighbors. We needed to be a better partner with our allies and do things better. So the poor folks with the Keystone Pipeline had it approved and then revoked based on a simple whim. I'll tell you, I don't know if it's like the world's worst business decision, but one of the basic lines that we run into, one of the basic lines that is important in making America a friendly place to do business, and something that differentiates us from people around the world, is that we tend to have rule of law. And when we agree at the governmental level that we're going to do something, you can invest in that. You can bet money on it, and you can be assured that you will be able to work under the circumstances you've made an agreement. You can't do that anymore in America. You can't do that anymore. They simply will come back and change their mind at the whim of the mob to say, this is what the people in America want. What they mean is this is what the 5% of Democrats who are far left, Green New Dealers think. And this is what they want. So here we have the Biden administration just starting down the line of, well, the president was always very honest about what he intended to do, that he thought it was a bad idea and that it should be shut down. And now he's done that. I'm really perplexed with how they justify this when they go through a process that seems as if it was so one-sided and really hypocritical when they're saying you have to believe in America, but you can't believe in America because we're going to change what America said. Now, I've got another one I want to share with you from Jen Psaki. So, let me jump over here and so this is from American One. I always say American One. So Biden's Circleback girl called out for migrant facility hypocrisy, says they aren't cages. Now, this is kind of interesting, and I'll tell you, we were going through this article a little bit earlier today. So let me just see if I can't.
To that point, why is the Biden administration reopening a temporary facility for migrant children in Texas?
Well, first, the policy of this administration, as you well know, but just for others, is not to expel unaccompanied children who arrive at the border. And the process, how it works, is that Customs and Border Control continue to transfer unaccompanied children to the HHS Office of Refugee Resettlement. That can take a couple of days. I just want to give this context because people need to understand the process. But because of COVID-19 protocols, social
It was definitely COVID-19's fault.
Requirements, the capacity to exist.
Dr. Fauci's social distancing issues.
Office of Refugee Resettlement Shelters has been significantly.
The Office of Refugee Resettlement?
Because, of course, you can't have a child in every bed. There needs to be spacing, and we abide by those spacing to protect the kids who are living in those facilities for a short period of time. And to ensure the health and safety of these kids, HHS took steps to open an emergency facility to add capacity where these children can be provided the care they need before they are safely placed with families and sponsors. So it's a temporary reopening during COVID-19. Our intention is very much to close it, but we want to ensure that we can follow COVID protocols as unaccompanied minors come into the United States.
But it's the same facility that was open for a month in the Trump administration, summer 2019. That is when Joe Biden said, under Trump, there have been horrifying scenes at the border of kids being kept in cages. And Kamala Harris said, basically babies in cages is a human rights abuse being committed by the United States
Human
government.
rights
So how is
abuse.
this any different than that?
We very much feel
Committed
that
by
way.
Kamala.
And
if
these are facilities. Let me be clear here. One, there's a pandemic going on. I'm sure you're not suggesting.
Hey, so when did that happen? You know, that was Obama, right? That came out with the, let me be clear. Because every politician, it's like a guaranteed line that they're going to throw out. Let me be clear. And Jen Psaki, I think, wants to make sure that we're all clear. She's got the pen pointing, right? Look at her here. She's got the pen pointing. She's saying, let me be clear. Let me be clear. Right from the Obama playbook. Here she goes. I'll shut up.
That we have children right next to each other in ways that are not COVID safe. Are you?
I'm suggesting that Kamala Harris said that this facility, putting people in this facility, was a human rights abuse committed by the United States government. And Joe Biden said, under Trump, there have been horrifying scenes of at the border of kids being kept in cages. Now it's not under Trump; it's under Biden.
This is not kids being kept in cages. This is kids. This is a facility that was opened that's going to follow the same standards as other HHS facilities. It is not a replication, certainly not. Though that is never our intention of replicating the immigration policies of the past administration, but we are in a circumstance where we are not going to expel unaccompanied minors at the border. That would be inhumane. That is not what we are going to do here as an administration. We need to find places that are safe under COVID protocols for kids to be, where they can have access to education, health and mental services, consistent with their best interests. Our goal is for them to then be transferred to families or sponsors. So this is our effort to ensure that kids are not in close proximity and that we are abiding by the health and safety standards that the government has been set out.
And to that point,
Come on, Jen. Come on, Jen. Jen can't really be believing these things either. But look, this is all really part, and I want you to think about this. It's the difference. So what the Democrats wanted us to get rid of was they wanted us to get rid of a president who would come out and talk just sort of plain speak. By the way, so I want to show you, and if you go to American One, you can actually see this, and we've even got a link to the shop so you can see what they look like. This is what Trump was using as the migrant facility. These are CHUs. They're the same things, by the way, that our troops have lived in overseas. They're basically an air-conditioned container, right? It's got all the amenities of home when you don't have a home. So it was never a jail. It was never a jail or a cage when Kamala said that. It was never a place that was inhumane. In fact, the whole idea of it was that we're providing shelter and a cool place. And inside, they have beds, they're comfortable. I don't have pictures of the ones there. This is just right from the site. There's mobile mini storage solutions. There are companies that build these and ship them for our military. So it's not uncommon to see people going into something like this. So when anybody overstates what's happening, where are we putting these people? They make it sound so terrible, but it's really not tremendously different in terms of what the living conditions are like than it would be like to live in a camper or a trailer or to go someplace. They're simply made out of a more rigid steel because they're shipped on cargo ships and lifted up and moved around by other types. So here's an image of it kind of straight on. It's simple. It's not something that's designed. So if you want more, you can actually go to our website and you can see for yourself. You don't even have to take it for us. You can go to the sales site and you can see what's happening there and understand that it's just a place to live. All that we saw Ducey doing there from Fox News was actually using their own words back on them. The exact same facility that these children lived in under the Trump administration, that Kamala Harris said was a tragedy. This is a human rights violation. And now suddenly it's okay. And Jen there was saying, hey, we don't want to be compared at all to the Trump administration and to their ideas. So Miss Psaki says, hey, well, that's not us. That's not the way we are. We don't live like that. We don't believe that. So look, folks, I can tell you one thing that may make this easier to understand is when you actually get a chance to see what is it that that Joe Biden is doing. You know, what kind of people did he choose, and why, you know, why is it so strange? Well, it could be that this is more about Joe Biden's communication style than it is about anything else. So we've got a couple of quick clips here I want to share with you, and you be the judge.
Let me reiterate our support for the release of the detained detained in China, 2 Canadians, Michael Spavor and Michael Covering, excuse me. Human beings are not bartering chips.
Does this feel like an episode of The Anchorman? You know, that part where the guy's like, it's I should pull that clip. I should have pulled that clip to share with you, because it really seems surreal. And that's not all. That's not the only one. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm really not. I'm just saying this, folks, the Democrats were so upset about Trump, who used words like marvelous, fantastic, the biggest, the greatest. And this is the replacement, and they find it better.
The only way to spare more pain and more loss, the only way, these millstones no longer mark our national mourning. These milestones, I should say, no longer mark our national mourning.
Shibbity hee hee, whoop shoot, whoop up. I feel like Jim Carrey is going to jump out and pull off a Biden mask, right? There's something happening, not just in his inability to communicate. I think it's very strange that as we look through this and we kind of see the things, and I'm trying not to be overly, you know, I guess, yeah. So Rick says, kick him, Jim. I don't want to kick him when he's down. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying not to be mean. The point is, this is the paradox, right? That comes when you look at the Democrats. They always will say things that they intend, and then they deliver the things that they were speaking out against. They're always doing the things that they accuse their opponents of doing. So, Russian collusion. Well, it turns out Trump's not doing that, but could be some foreign entanglement with the other side. Your president's an idiot. Okay, but he can talk. He might only use certain words because he's always thinking big. But I just got to say, I see something different here. Interestingly, you know, some of the best decisions that Trump made, some of the most effective plans, like Operation Talon, and now Biden cancels Operation Talon. This is the what I'm going to talk to you about here is a human event story that is Biden cancels Trump's Operation Talon program that targeted sex offenders living in the U.S. illegally. So you guys had seen all sorts of reports, you know, from Chicago, from various cities, that the government was coming in, converging with local forces and finding these sex offenders, the people who were doing human trafficking, and they were arresting them in droves. Now, Biden has, with his executive order pen, he's made it clear that essentially he's going to undo everything. According to the article, his newest cancellation simply doesn't make sense. Biden's administration recently canceled Operation Talon, a Trump administration program aimed at removing convicted sex offenders living in the United States illegally. Though the program seems to be something everyone would support. Right now I sound like Biden. It clearly isn't. Why wouldn't anyone want sex offenders to be moved out of the country? Not just to mention that they're illegally here. So it's one thing to say we have folks who've maybe had to register, they're in a program, they're fixing themselves, they're whatever. But we're talking about somebody who's illegally here, and Biden wants them to stay, I guess. So South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson joined a coalition of 18 state attorneys general to urge Biden to reverse the cancellation. Quote, "We're working hard to fight human trafficking and sex crimes in South Carolina, and allowing convicted sex offenders who are here illegally to remain in our country makes absolutely no sense," Wilson said. "These trafficking and sex crimes are repugnant to human decency generally and to children specifically," he added. So what's behind this sort of thinking? Now, let's look at the... So the attorneys general argued that canceling Operation Talon could encourage sexual predators to attack. The United States population of illegal immigrants includes disturbingly large numbers of criminals with prior convictions for sexual crimes, the letter reads. According to data collected by Syracuse University's Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse, during the period from October 2014 to May 2018, ICE arrested 19,572 illegal aliens with criminal convictions for whom the most serious prior conviction was a conviction for a sex-related offense. Meanwhile, an increasing number of illegal aliens are entering the United States after having been previously convicted of sexual offenses. You know, you've seen the caravan, right? He's got the caravan and 25,000 coming up from South America. They park here. Hey, we're reversing the plan. They're on the other side knocking on the door saying, hey, Joe Biden said we could come in. The cancellation of Operation Talon effectively broadcast to the world that the United States is now a sanctuary jurisdiction for sexual predators. Folks, I can't think of anyone who goes for this, right? I can't think of anyone who would turn their eyes from this sort of crime, who would absolutely not only tacitly endorse it by removing the idea that we're gonna go hunt you down and take you back to your home countries where you can face whatever you need to face. So the question that the article asks is, if the United States will not remove convicted sex offenders who are here illegally, whom will it remove? And that's a great question. So, there has to be a standard. This is what Trump was fighting for consistently. We have to have a standard to say, we'll let this in, we won't let that, and here's how we're going to work through these issues. There's a right way and a wrong way. So to have people illegally coming into the country and blatant about it, right? To now say that's fine. But I will tell you, it's not just me who's asking questions, by the way. It's not just me who's asking questions. It turns out in our next story, House Democrats want Biden to give up sole authority to launch nuclear weapons. Now let that just soak in for a second, and think about that. So Democrats want Biden to give up sole authority to launch nuclear weapons. This is an Epoch Times article, by the way. So who's coming up with this? Well, several dozen House Democrats signed a letter asking President Joe Biden to give up his sole authority to launch nuclear weapons and consider modifying the command and control of the U.S. nuclear forces. So Jimmy Panetta, a Democrat from California, said vesting one person with this authority entails real risk. Past presidents, I'm sure they're talking about Trump, have threatened to attack other countries with nuclear weapons or exhibited behaviors that cause other officials to express concern about the president's judgment. While any president would presumably consult with advisors before ordering a nuclear attack, there's no requirement to do so. The military is obligated to carry out the order if they assess it is legal under the laws of war. Under the current posture of U.S. nuclear forces, that attack would happen in minutes. Panetta made a similar statement on Twitter on February 22nd. He said that calling on the White House to install checks and balances in our nuclear command and control structure. I wonder if Panetta knows why it's a matter of minutes. Past presidents have threatened nuclear attacks on other countries and exhibited concerning behavior that cast doubt on their judgment, according to his tweet. The letter was signed by Panetta and Representative Ted Lieu. Democrat from California. About 3 dozen other Democrats also signed the letter. So interestingly, you may remember back when Trump was still in office, Nancy Pelosi claimed she spoke with Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley, about protecting the nuclear codes from former President Donald Trump. Pelosi said she spoke to Milley on January 5th, quote, to discuss the available precautions for preventing an unstable president from initiating military hostilities or accessing the launch codes and ordering a nuclear strike. However, despite her claim, the powers remain within the White House since President Harry Truman ordered 2 atomic bombs be dropped on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Folks, the Congress can't make good decisions. That doesn't mean that every president will make good decisions. However, our Constitution vests this power to the president, not to some committee. Could you imagine trying to get 13 people in a room to get a consensus? Hey, I think we should. I think we shouldn't. No, I think we should. How about you? No, we shouldn't. What if we ended up with one of those situations where there's, one person who says, I just don't want to vote. And now we've got a split, 6 here, 6 there. They can't decide. Foreign missiles are coming in. There's no response on its way because the U.S. can't decide what to do. Typically, a military aide shadows the president and has a black briefcase known as the nuclear football. A president is legally able to order a nuclear attack with the United States arsenal of weapons, including ICBMs, submarine-launched missiles, or via strategic bombers. So, folks, it's very different, right? The world is different, and luckily, we have so many good things to think about tonight. What about this one? Have you guys been tracking this this story that came out? Coca-Cola slammed for diversity training that urged workers to be less white. Any of you seen that video? They've taken it down now, so I can't share it. But there was a video about this. So this is a New York Post article. Coca-Cola employees were urged to be less white as part of a company's diversity training. But the material was yanked offline following a viral whistleblower post. The Confronting Racism course in question was offered by LinkedIn Education and allegedly utilized by the soft drink Titan. In the U.S., other Western nations, white people are socialized to feel that they inherently are superior because they are white. Folks, I don't know anyone who grew up thinking this. And I've been white my whole life. I'm just going to tell you, I don't know any person who's come up and said, well, we are white. So the whistleblower posted and shared this, and it's more than ridiculous. Another one of their slides says, try to be less white, with tips including be less oppressive, listen, believe, and break with white solidarity. So a little critical race theory going out here said that if this was a required course at Coca-Cola, so you have to be part of this course. You have to go in here with, there she is. Coca-Cola denied that the training featured interviews with socialist Robin DiAngelo was mandatory for employees. On Monday, LinkedIn said it pulled the controversial course featuring interviews with sociologist Robin DiAngelo, the author of White Fragility. Right? So there she is. I want to show her so that everybody can get a good look at her. Go blow up her social media, with post, by the way, with post. Send her what you think about that white fragility. And I'm going to come back to this. The Confronting Racism course features Robin DiAngelo, and it's no longer available in the course library at the request of third-party content provider. We license this content from Nicole Leverich, Vice President of Corporate Communications. So here we go. Here's an actual picture of a slide. To be less white is to be less oppressive. Be less arrogant. Be less certain. Be less defensive. Be less ignorant, you bumbling moron. Be more humble. Listen. Believe. Break with apathy. Break with white solidarity. Folks, I can't follow this line of thinking. There are people, and clearly there are corporations. Now this makes me think I may never drink a Coke again, right? I may never be able to pull this back in. But it does not seem like it was a very carefully thought out idea from Coca-Cola. It doesn't seem like they spent a whole lot of time thinking how to do this. And certainly, I can just tell you, churches, folks, you guys have seen churches, you guys have seen, Christians who are all over the country right now, and they are speaking this blather to their members about the white fragility and this whole concept of critical race theory. I'm going to share one more thing. It's going to take me a minute to pull up, but as I kind of talk through this, I just want to say nothing frustrates me more these days than to see and hear this sort of ignorance perpetuated, one, by corporate America, because these companies that do this, folks, I am not for racism of any sort. I am not for any sort of measure that we say, hey, your skin color or your race is what will determine if you get a job, or is what will determine how high you can climb in an organization. I'm a capitalist. I want the best people I can get. I want folks who will do the job to the best of their ability, who will never bring up critical race theory, who will never bring up the ignorance of racism on either side, right? That's not really what we go to work for. We go to work to advance ideas, to make things come along, right? To spread ideas. So it really concerns me when I see that there are universities, and in particular a university that I've attended. So I'm not going to share the university name, but I am going to share with you something, and I'm going to show you two things that I think are actually incredibly crazy. Maybe I am going to show you the university. All right, I'm not going to show you this. I'm just going to read it. And here's what I want to do. Because what will surprise you here is when you see this, you're going to think, wait a minute, this must be one of those really liberal departments in the school that did this. This isn't something tied back to any of the hard sciences or whatnot. But let me read the paragraph. This is on the front page of their department page inside this university, which is a Virginia university. And it says, "We condemn racism in all its forms. We acknowledge that our academic disciplines have been shaped by the pervasive and systemic racism in our country. Therefore, we are committed to providing a safe and welcoming environment for all students, regardless of race, ethnicity, national origin, documentation status, disability, creed, gender, or sexual orientation. We promise to engage in ongoing conversations and to listen to voices of people from marginalized groups about actions we can take to make our departments more inclusive and to help fight racism." I don't think it's the English department because it's two sentences and it's a paragraph. But it would probably surprise you to know that this paragraph doesn't come from social sciences. It doesn't come from ethnic studies, from women's studies, from anything like that. It comes from the Department of Physics, Computer Science, and Engineering. Now, folks, if there's anything more quantitative than physics, computer science, and engineering, something that doesn't look at the subjective, it looks at the facts, and someone, and I can't say their name because, of course, it would potentially tell the folks who is out there. My argument is this doesn't make sense for anyone. This isn't what we should be focusing on. One, if we as a people are so focused on what happened in the 1860s and before, the 1960s even, and before, it's not going to move our country forward. The way to move forward is to leave these separations, these divisions behind, right? So we talked about it before the election. Get rid of the hyphenated American, right? I'm not an African American. I'm not an Italian American. I'm not a Latino American. I am an American, right? And collectively, no matter what road brought me here, no matter what path I followed, no matter what my ancestors did, I'm simply here to be a good human in America, right? I'm not here to judge you by your race, your creed, your color, your even to some extent your ideas. It's okay to have a different idea than me. It's all right. But when people try to take these things and bring us back, you know, we've got this committee that's talking about reparations. There are many, many things that we should be talking about these days. It's 2021. You know, fixing the rollout of COVID doses would be a great one. Having people more productive, having people back to work, having things, you know, returning to normalcy would be a great thing to talk about. What about great ideas? What about things that we're going to do? It seems that, you know, if we didn't have an Elon Musk in the world right now, that we'd be short on great thinkers that are pulling the ideas forward. So we've got to move away from these things. We're American. That's why we started American One. We really want people to think about the American experience. It's not about your African experience. It's not about your ancestors' experience. There are many, many stories. We can all have one. And it's fine to embrace that, right? We need to kill things that are specific to a culture, that separate and divide us, and move back towards a unified America. So, hey, I want to go to the comments real quick. I want to get some time in to see what you guys are thinking. Carol Rivers, I like it. I am American. Yeah, me too. Me too. Let's all be Americans. That's our battle cry, American. In fact, I'm going to get the American One shirts on the website, and I'm going to try to do it by this time next week, so everybody can go there and buy a shirt and be an American, right? That is one thing you can be. You can be American One, or One American, right? We are one America, and we're united. Carol Rivers says, hey, CEOs can't hire whites. I know, I'm a white CEO. There is a problem. I may have to fire myself. I've been thinking about this. So no more Coke products for Doretta Murnan, right? I totally agree with you. If these corporate, you know, psychopaths continue down this path, I will throw everything they ever made away and will never buy it, will not allow it in my businesses. I will be buying things from people who support freedom, who support the Constitution, and who believe in some sane thought. Not the ridiculousness of reparations, not the ignorance of this white fragility, not the foolishness of just continuing to separate and divide, where there are only a few who benefit from this. The Jesse Jacksons of the world have made lots of money doing this. The Al Sharptons of the world have made lots of money claiming these issues. That's not where I want to go. I want to find people who are ready to come to work, who can move our ideas forward. You know, in our defense business, I'm looking for people who can defend our country, who can outthink the bad guys, who can bring new ideas and new energy into our corporate situation, who embrace our culture, who embrace our constitutional values, who embrace the ideas of freedom and freedom of speech. I allow people in our company to disagree with me. They don't have to agree with me at all. In fact, I encourage it. I don't want people to agree with me. I want to have lots of diverse opinions. So this is absolutely not okay when we have big companies that are shoving this down the throats of their employees. It just makes me loony. Tamara Sharp says Zuck's at it again. Yeah, you're probably right. You know, it won't be long, by the way, before we will be tossed off of probably Facebook. We are down 10,000 followers on our Crawfordology site. So it really helps me if you guys like and share and get this message out there. Make sure some other people come in. And they are making sure that it's very difficult for us to be seen. So the more you guys do it, the better. I will come back. I promise you I will come back. This was a tough week, of course, for all of us, losing Rush Limbaugh, losing that great conservative voice. So, hey, I don't have a big Rush Limbaugh voice, but I'll come out here and I'll do what I can, 3 or 4 nights a week. So I really appreciate you guys being here. I know that it may not always, whoa, it's kind of loud tonight, may not always feel like it, but I think about you guys when I'm not here.